lovelies, my name is Miss Lady Lace and I'm a vintage addict. Today I have for you a brand new video where I'm going to be talking about vintage fashion. Over the next few weeks I have so many exciting videos that I've planned to share with you, including dressing vintage on a budget, a few of my favorite vintage stores, and so much more. Today we're going to be looking at vintage tips as well as my vintage shopping kit. This is essential items you need to take vintage shopping with you. If you're a vintage addict like me, let me know in the comments below what items you love to shop for. Now, I do plan on doing a video that is a tour of our home as we collect so many different vintage items, but things that especially stand out for me is sort of antique to mid-century furniture. I adore vintage figurines from the 1940s, lady vases. I collect vintage beauty items. I love vases. We have a lot of fish items. Just from this you can probably tell that we collect a lot of vintage stuff in our home. Vintage fashion is a really big part of my life as well. Our whole bedroom is essentially my open wardrobe. My husband also has a wardrobe of his own in the next room as we both adore vintage fashion, so I'll be sure to share a video of those also soon. We're still in the process of renovating some of the house, especially down towards the bedroom and the bathroom for that area, but I will share that as soon as I possibly can. Today's video is more in relation to vintage shopping for clothing. I'm going to be talking about my vintage shopping kit that I take when I go clothing shopping. Now, I'm sure if you're like me, you've been to so many sales where there aren't many change rooms. Maybe you've worn a dress which is just not practical for trying on other vintage clothing. So having a good vintage shopping kit will make your vintage shopping experience so much easier. So today I'm talking about 4 essential items and I'll also list a few tips as well. Here I have one of my favorite vintage bags. This one is really fabulous because it's super spacious, unlike a lot of my other vintage bags which are a lot more petite. But this one is perfect for carrying around everything with me. I also usually take my camera everywhere just in case I feel like I could vlog, so a good vintage bag with a lot of space is perfect for me. I recommend you finding one to keep your vintage kit in as well. So there's tons of stores you can check out for this. This fabulous bag that I have is from the Vintage Hub, which is just located in Bassendean. They have literally everything vintage your heart could desire. Vintage clothing, vintage items, furniture, small trinkets, gifts, and so much more. So I definitely recommend adding them to your next vintage shopping trip. In my beautiful little case though, our first essential item, especially if there are no change rooms or you do not have the ability to easily take off the dress you're wearing. For instance, the dress I have on today is a 1970s does 1940s style dress. The only thing that is super annoying about this is it only goes on over the head. So if I already have my hair and makeup done, it is very difficult to take on and off. To fix this issue though, I simply carry around with me a measuring tape. This enables me to measure a garment that I'm interested in and find out if the measurements match my own. The only tricky thing with this is some vintage items are really difficult to get on if you have broader shoulders, broader hips. Sometimes you do need to try them on to ensure that they will fit you perfectly, but the measuring tape will make it a lot easier. Even if you're looking at vintage furniture, you can measure if it'll fit in a space in your home, so it's great to always carry one of these around. Our next essential item in our vintage shopping kit is a chiffon scarf. I always carry around one of these because I quite often wear my hair quite ornately wherever I go. As I mentioned before, many vintage dresses are really hard to put on your body, often because they have a side zip or they might have a zip on the center back but not all the way up to the back of the neck. So you really have to swim through them to get them on, and if you have fabulous vintage hair then it will be ruined by this. So the easiest fix to avoid this is either don't wear your hair fabulous, or if you're like me and have no self-control and must always have beautiful hair, you can simply take a chiffon scarf, fold down a corner, wrap this around your hair, tie it nice and firmly, and then as you swim through your dress, your hair will be left perfect still, and you can remove it as soon as you have that on. Now, coupled with your glamorous vintage hair, you may also be someone who loves wearing red lipstick when vintage shopping. If this is the case and you're not wearing lip sense, which is smudge proof and kiss proof, which is perfect for vintage shopping, you may be wearing a cream lipstick which does smudge off like I'm wearing today. So if you're getting into a vintage gown, it can be very easy to transfer your lovely lipstick onto that even lovelier gown, completely ruining it, as the lipstick can be really difficult to get out. The easy fix to this though is to carry around either a handkerchief like this cute little pink one here, having a napkin or a tissue in your bag, just so you can press this onto your lips. So I simply just put it between my lips, covering my lip area. I'll then put my scarf on, looking incredibly not very glamorous at all, and then you can swim through your dress and you kept your hair and your lipstick perfect, as well as not getting any lipstick on that gown. My fourth essential item for your vintage shopping kit is to carry around a shopping bag. So this one here is just one I roll up and keep in my bag. I think I received this free from the city of Bassendean. It's essentially just a carry bag, as we no longer have plastic bags. I do believe this is an Australian-wide ban, so pretty much anywhere you go they won't usually have a bag that they provide unless it's recyclable. So it is good to have your own carry bag to put your items in and be able to easily transport them around. Now I have a few fabulous vintage shopping tips, just a couple to finish off today's video. The first is, if you're planning on going vintage shopping for dresses, it may be a good idea to wear something that's very practical and easy to change out of. It can be so tempting to wear a most glamorous and opulent dress, but it can also be really good to wear something that's easy to get out of. So maybe a circle skirt with a nice zip on the back, and maybe a cardigan that's really easy to take on and off. If I am going somewhere where I know there will be no change rooms, I often wear an outfit underneath. So this may be as simple as a small pair of short shorts and a singlet, or maybe a petticoat that goes all the way up and down and covers my body fully. So if I take off my top layer, I can still put clothes on over the top of my underneath outfit. When going vintage shopping, it can be really easy to spend through the roof, and I'm definitely someone who does vintage on a budget. Quite often I will invest in pieces that I think are truly worth that, but it's always good to set yourself a budget before you leave the house, because you can get to this beautiful location and just see the perfect dress and say, oh, I'll spend $500 on that, and suddenly your budget is out of place. And you really don't want to be doing that, as you really want to work within a budget. You want to live a good life and have beautiful clothes at the same time. My third tip of the day is, don't be afraid to check op shops / thrift stores. So in Australia we call them an op shop. In America I think it's called a thrift store. I'm not sure about other locations around the world, but this is essentially a second-hand, often charity-based store. It can be so tiring going through all their clothing racks, but you never know when you're going to find a gem in one of these stores. So don't be afraid to go through all the beautiful racks, and you might even find a true vintage dress for next to nothing. I do hope you enjoyed today's video on my vintage shopping kit, as well as a few extra tips. Next week I have coming for you a vintage on a budget video. So many people who are new to pinup and vintage often spend so much money on clothing and makeup, and you definitely don't need to look fabulous. So do look forward to that video coming out next week. If you liked today's video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up and leave a comment below with any questions, comments, feedback, anything you have for me, or even a suggestion for a video that you'd love to see. If you'd like to stay up to date with all my vintage fun, be sure to follow me on social media. I have the links here and at the end of the video as well. I do post quite regularly to Instagram. I really do love having discussions and getting to know you all so much better. As always, if you'd like to stay up to date with all my vintage fun, be sure to hit that subscribe button below, and I will be seeing you all real soon.